Hello everyone, I'm Extra Cheesy 87 and this is Let's Play a Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulations Part 41. In the previous video, we completed the final investigation of the game and are now about to begin the final trial. Good morning. Oh, are you by yourself? Yeah, morning, Pearls. Mr. Nick, please tell me, what's gonna happen to Mystic Maya? I'm sorry, we don't know yet. The investigation was still going on, so I wasn't allowed in the inner temple. Oh, I see. So is Sister Iris still trying to remove those trick locks in the training hall? No, she's the defendant in this case, so she can't be at the inner temple. She's required to be here in court. Oh, then how come she's not here in the defendant's lobby? I have to admit, it's kinda strange. If you're looking for Iris, she's in the prosecutor's lobby. Edgeworth? What's Iris doing over there? She's going over today's testimony with the prosecutor as we speak. Today's testimony? You heard me. Iris is going to be testifying as a witness for the prosecution. Okay. Can you do that? Wait, what? The prosecutor is squeezing her for a confession, so I heard. Francesca von Karma. What are you up to? I mean, is it her? I assume it's Godot. I know what you're thinking, but Francesca isn't going to be the prosecutor today. What? Then who is? Phoenix, you're not this dumb. Who else would it be but Godot? Godot? Francesca is engaged in some important work at the Sacred Cavern. You can't say that with that face, man. The Sacred Cavern? You don't mean that she's... Exactly, she's whipping those locks into shape as we speak. She's been out there all night trying to remove those trick locks. The head nun's assistants, naturally. It's just anything with that face just seems like an innuendo. We estimate that the last of the locks should be taken care of in about 3 hours. Exactly in time to present the decisive evidence right before the trial ends. Hope everything continues to go smoothly and receive some good news soon. Yeah, thanks, Edgeworth, but haven't we had like 4 trials in at this point where someone runs into the last second, like dramatically with evidence and or just existing? This is like a little too similar to the last case of the last game. I don't know. I feel like this game does do a bit too much of like, Maya's trapped. Oh no, Maya's not in the case type stuff. I mean, there's been 3 cases like that. I mean, you had Chapter 2 of the last game, the last chapter of the last game, this chapter of this game. Technically, chapter 2 of the first game. Granted, that was before Maya was really like established as like a character and a sidekick, so it wasn't as big a deal, but be prepared to fight like there's no tomorrow. You don't have to tell me that. Touche. I can already see it in your eyes. You're not the same fever-ridden, frantic maniac you were yesterday. Strange, on the way here I decided that today would be the end of all this. Almost immediately after I made that decision, I felt myself getting stronger. Interesting. Maybe you've passed your cold into someone else. Literally. And with that, I leave the rest in your capable hands, partner. But thanks. I just can't take him seriously with that face for some reason. He's just stupid, sexy Edgeworth. I still don't have the answers for most of the riddles plaguing this case. Circumstances around the murder of Miss Elise? No, I mean Miss Misty Faye. The impossible flight Larry claims to have seen. What that woman is really after. What do you mean you don't know what she's really after? We very clearly know what she's after. She wants to murder Misty and Maya. I will solve them all and bring this whole tragedy to an end. Or really, I think she just wanted to murder Maya. Like, it's also possible they had no clue that Misty was there. This is what I think. I'm under the kind of idea that they had no idea that, that like Misty is an uncontrolled variable in this whole equation. That she was just trying to get Maya killed or like trap her in the cavern? Because theoretically, even if Misty is still alive, right? Like she's not really going to be able to, like Pearl would still be the default next master as long as Maya is dead. I mean, how old do we know how old Misty is? I mean, she's 49, yeah. You're not having any more kids, so that's not like a thing to worry about. Court is now in session for the trial of Iris and Hazakura Temple. Or Iris of Hazakura Temple. The temple is not on trial. I mean, not yet. Can we trial a temple? The first judge to find a building guilty. Huh. Like the sound of that. Your Honor? What are you... Huh? Who? Me? Well, my little brother came to visit me in my chambers early this morning. All of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, he developed a scorching fever and fainted. Therefore, I'll be standing in for him. I see, Your Honor. So they're brothers. That explains a lot. Oh, my poor brother. He looks a bit pale, not to mention sad that he couldn't be here. Did you poison the person? Good night. It's impossible to predict what the future has in store for any of us. This is precisely why people felt the need to judge the past. But you, we of the court have been charged with the solemn duty of passing such judgment. Well said, Mr. Godot. I don't know what you're talking about, but it sounded real philosophical and shit, so yeah. I understood exactly what you said. At least up until the end, anyway. Now then, Mr. Godot, please proceed with your opening statement. Humans are fragile, fickle beings. Our hearts change with the shiftings of the tides. Haven't you said that already? There's only one thing that remains a constant in this crazy world. If you say coffee, I'm gonna smack the shit out of you. He's gonna say it. The bitter darkness that lies at the bottom of this mug. Ah, so then you mean... forget it. What did you mean? In yesterday's trial, the accused refused to admit her role in the crime. But today, she has had a change of heart. Sister Iris of Hazakura Temple has a confession to make. Confession? Ah, the defendant? Iris. Why didn't you discuss this with me first? Because every client has to be difficult. It's in their contract. Well then, this court will now hear the defendant's confession. Upon meeting a beautiful lady, I always ask for her name and profession. That's one of my rules. My name is Iris. I'm but a simple nun undergoing training at the Hazakura Temple. Ah, witness! Is there something you want to confess to? Yes, but first I want to apologize to Mr. Wright. I can't continue lying to everyone anymore. So I'm gonna lie in front of everyone. It's alright. What is it? Mr. Wright, I have to admit that I did play a part in this terrible incident. Are you actually confessing? Are you saying that you were the one who murdered Miss Elise? No, I'm not, Your Honor. But I dealt with the cover-up after the murder took place. After her spirit left, I took the lifeless shell of Mystic Elise and carried it to the Hazakura Temple courtyard where I desecrated it. Okay, that makes sense. We still haven't established how Elise's body is transferred. We haven't seen any sort of like large slingshot contraption to fling the body over the canyon. Just because we didn't see one doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but we have no evidence of it. Oh, order in the court! Order! Witness! Are you saying that you were an accomplice to the murder? Yes, that's correct. What? 3 minutes in court and I'm already covered in a cold sweat. Everyone on the planet is an accomplice to something. Just happens to be that in this case, it's to murder. Did you like really think that ahead of time and like think it sounded smart? Isn't that right, Mr. Trite? Heck a dot. So this is the confession they were conferring about? It pains me to say this, But it looks like Iris's testimony was all a lie. Crumpled up and shoved into a pocket! Now then, little lady, if you don't mind, I've got a question for you. Whose crime are you trying to cover up by your actions? Iris was covering for someone? Now I'm definitely up creek without a paddle or a life jacket. I've been at Hazakura Temple ever since I was a little girl. Hazakura Temple is run by one of the branch families of the Crane tradition. I mean... I don't really know why I didn't think about it, but... I mean, Bikini could have also... been the one to channel Dahlia? Well, no, that doesn't make any sense. Run by one of the branch families of the Crane tradition. One of our missions is to protect the main family. Sorry, but main family? Yes, and that's why I would dirty myself. Need be to protect her. What? The daughter of the master of the Crane channeling technique. Mystic Maya Fey. How are you protecting her? Huh? Wake up and smell the coffee, Trent. She's naming Maya? Oh, she's saying, oh, she's lying and saying Maya committed the murder. Okay. I was like, I didn't know where she was going for there. Order in the court! Not only did you witness the murder, you know the name of the murderer! I'm terribly sorry, but it's true. I saw her commit the crime with my very own eyes. We're not gonna talk about how that shit ain't even, like, close to possible. And then I cleaned up the area to try and protect her. That's ridiculous! I could never do such a... But events will refrain from commenting until the appropriate time. Now, witness, let's hear your testimony. What exactly happened on the night of the crime? Yes, Your Honor. Thought I was prepared for the unexpected. I never imagined the case would wind up going in this direction. Oh, what? Maya accused of murder again? Only the third time we've done this. At least. I went to the inner temple that night and saw it all happen in the garden. Saw Mystic Elise strike Mystic Maya with her staff. While Mystic Maya was still stumbling, Mystic Elise moved in to deliver a fatal strike. Mystic Maya tried desperately to defend herself and stole the weapon. It was only in self-defense. You can't blame her for it. I mean, it seems like so easy to fucking discredit because she obviously couldn't have been at the main hall because of the fire on the bridge. You know? I mean, that's the wrong thing, but, because... Because we know she was killed at 11, right? Or I think it says 10 to 11, but, you know. Based on what evidence we have, we kind of know it was, like, closer to 11. At least the stuff in the main hall. Oh, it was in self-defense! Yes, Mystic Elise is the one who attacked first. I tried my best to protect Mystic Maya. You moved the victim's body to the temple so that Maya wouldn't be suspected. Isn't that right? Not bad. You've got the instincts of a true criminal. Oh, okay, she's saying that she attacked her in the garden first. Okay. Something's not quite right. I'm sure it was established yesterday. But Iris never went to the inner temple that night. And the person who did go, that woman, Iris even admitted it. Now then, Mr. Wright, please proceed with your cross-examination. Okay, her story it works on a surface level. If she's saying that, like, the murder happened in the garden, and then she would have transferred the body before, you could, you know, say it was before the bridge got burned up. Sister Iris, your testimony has changed quite a bit since yesterday. You stated yesterday that on the night of the murder, you didn't go to the inner temple. Did she now? Too bad for you. What she said yesterday doesn't mean much today. By the way, where were you when she claimed that she didn't go? It was in the intertemporal training hall. Private conversation between the two of you does not constitute testimony. He is correct. That would be properly described as hearsay. What do you have to say, witness? I just couldn't tell him the truth at that time. Mystic Maya, she's your girlfriend, isn't she? I didn't want to be the one to break it to you that I saw her commit murder. I mean, it wouldn't be murder, okay? I mean, in theory, she committed a killing, but not a murder. Wait, what? I didn't hit any buttons. There, we all understand how difficult this is for you. I thought it was like asking me to present evidence for a second. Now then, let's continue the testimony. What did you witness in the temple garden? Well, Your Honor. You defended herself and stole the weapon. But like, no one knows about the sword, right? Yeah, no one knows except me and Detective Gumshoe. Okay. So that's probably what we're going to present. We just have to find the right line of dialogue. You're saying that the victim attacked Maya? I mean, Miss Faye? Yes, it was a truly frightening scene. Are you telling me Miss Faye tried to attack Miss Faye and then Miss Faye defended Miss Faye's self from Miss Faye? That seems totally ridiculous. Miss Faye would never act like that, especially towards Miss Faye. Mystic Maya was struck hard in the head and looked like she was going to collapse. What were you doing at the time? Playing games on my phone. Why didn't you stop them from fighting? I'm terribly sorry, Mr. Wright. I was frightened. I couldn't move. I couldn't even speak. I was in such shock. That's perfectly understandable, my dear. This doesn't sound right. I don't believe this testimony for a minute. What happened after that? She moved in to deliver a fatal strike? Yes, I'm sure of it. She threw down her staff and reached into her robe for a weapon? Wait a minute. What was this weapon? It was, some kind of dagger. A dagger, huh? And Miss Elise tried to stab her with this weapon? To kill Miss Faye? Yes, exactly. You look like I did after I mistakenly took a swig of Worcestershire sauce. You have a problem with the testimony we're hearing from your client, lawyer boy? I have a problem with Iris' testimony. I mean, there is one thing. Your Honor, I have a small problem with the witness's testimony. You do? But this witness is your own client! That's never stopped me before, Your Honor. Yes, well, nevertheless. That's fine. Witness, let's add your last statement to the test. And we've never had a client that didn't confess to being guilty, I think. I think all of our clients are like, I fucking did that shit. I think the one client we had that was like, I didn't do this shit, did do this shit. Yes, sir. Hey, just a moment. It's my job to say that. Listen, Gramps. I won't say it again. Final judgment will be rendered by me. Okay. With this gun! Okay, now. Let's continue. I guess we should press the other statements before we go in on this, but... And then... Mystic Maya, she turned things around and then... She used the weapon she had taken and lunged forward for a strike. Witness, are you absolutely certain? Yes, but believe me, she had no choice. Mystic Maya hadn't done something. Maya Faye's name would have been written on this autopsy report instead. Yes, I see. This is bad. Still can't put the pieces together. Once I find a contradiction in her testimony, Maya's gonna end up being blamed for this. I only have this to say. Okay. Let's go back and do this. She threw her staff away. Mystic Elise was trying to kill Mystic Maya. I think that's why she wanted a more lethal weapon. It's true! It's not easy to inflict a deadly blow with a staff! I'll have you know, I'm main a white mage! Sister Iris, let me make sure I've got this straight. The victim herself chose to throw away her staff? Yes, that's what I saw. Is there anything odd about that, Mr. Wright? Yeah, it's odd, alright. Mystic Elise attacked Mystic Maya with the dagger. I'm sure of this. Okay, so then we blast you. Sister Iris. There's something strange about your version of events. Huh? Miss Elise throwing away her staff. Actually makes no sense at all to me. But all you can do with the staff is hit someone. Well, actually, if you use it as an item, sometimes it'll let you cast a Faraga. Naturally, you wouldn't know this, Sister Iris, but the victim's staff had a special feature about it. As you can see, it's a sword. If Elise really had wanted to kill Maya Fey, she wouldn't have needed to use a separate dagger. Not when she already had a beautiful blade in her hands already. I feel like that was a boombox moment. I mean, the music did change, but that's not like boombox music. That's just like the court-appointed, like, elevator music. Well, Sister Iris, what do you have to say? That was an impressive bit of investigating, Trike. I never would have thought there was a sword hidden in that staff. Have you never seen a movie? But even so, how should I put this? A long sword is unwieldy and thus quite ineffective in close quarters combat. Maybe that's why she chose a dagger over her blade. Wouldn't she have just used the sword from the start? Like, what are you talking about, dude? She's like, she started to hit her with the staff and then was like, ah, I'm gonna get my dagger that I totally have. Well, anyway, the type of weapon she chose to use isn't what's important. I mean, the fact that we can't find the murder weapon, that's pretty important. The important thing is that she tried to kill Maya Fey. I mean, like, testimony means nothing without evidence, and you have no evidence. Like, we could testify that we saw you fucking trying to kill Elise, and you're gonna be like, oh. That's all you can say. As long as there's nothing strange about that, there's no problem with her testimony. But there is something strange about this whole testimony. Well, Mr. Wright, the prosecution has a point. No, he doesn't. We have a point with this sword. Very well, Your Honor. The defense will now present evidence to back its argument. We already presented evidence. He didn't present evidence. He was just like, oh, well, I mean, she says differently, so. Mr. Wright? I have here another piece of evidence that shows this testimony can't be trusted. Would never attempt to take the life of Maya Fey. That would be the talisman. Like, we want to establish that she's Misty, right? But it's saying evidence. That makes me think an item, not... Like, I don't know if it would be the because I think we would want to introduce the talisman as proof that she's Misty Fey, rather than just saying that she's Misty Fey. That's my logic here behind presenting the talisman to prove that she's the master, therefore Maya's mother. Well, Mr. Godot, you ask me? The only thing that seems... That's fucking stupid. That's... Sticking your finger in an electrical outlet might be safer for you. Because, like, just saying she's Misty Fey without evidence doesn't mean anything. Presenting the talisman and then being like, hey, here's this talisman, here's what it means, therefore Elise is Misty, wouldn't kill Maya, seems much stronger than just saying from the start, well, she's Misty Fey, and then they're like, so how do you have proof? And then you're like, well, this talisman. Like, you should start with the talisman, not the portrait. Elise would have never attacked Maya Fey. How can you be so sure? Because the victim's real name was not Elise. Her real name was Misty Fey. Fey? No. Not Mystic Misty Fey. Who is this Misty Fey? Is she related to... Misty Fey is the master of the crane channeling technique. She is also the mother of Maya. But, like, we don't have evidence to support this. We're just saying this. That's why I feel like it should have been the talisman. Are you serious? Because there's no reason to believe us when we say that she was Misty Fey at this point, without any evidence to back it up. Is this really true, Mr. Wright? Is Elise actually the great mystic Misty? There's no doubt about it. Looks like Iris had no idea. I can hardly believe it. The idea that she would try and kill her only daughter, one she hadn't seen in 17 years. Perhaps the prosecution can offer some explanation for why she would do such a thing. It's like, I mean, I get why it's the portrait, because the portrait does... Oh, whoops, I didn't mean to hit that. Because, like, the portrait does say that she's Misty Fey, so, like, I get it. I just feel like it's not the best logical, like, through line. Like, I feel like it's not the best answer. Because it does just feel like, why isn't Godot being like, and your proof for this is? Because we're just saying something and like presenting it as true without any evidence to back it up. Upon hearing the witness's testimony, it seemed natural enough. However, in light of some facts that have just been presented, one, the victim supposedly threw away a sword during a fight. And two, that the two people battling to death were mother and father. Mother and father? Mother and daughter. I'm old. Words hard. Despite the facts being believable in the heck on their own. When taken together, the entire story seems difficult to believe. Listen, there's nothing in this world that is impossible. Except for one little thing. Yes, what is this one little impossible thing? Nah, you still don't get it. You think maybe my beans are under roasted, but you have no idea, Gramps. Did you get to your point? I heard this witness's confession this morning. Just as I had taken the first sip of my 8th cup of morning coffee. You're gonna ruin your health, my friend. Anyway, after hearing this woman's confession, a detective who loves to investigate sent to the scene of the crime. And he discovered this little beauty. Is that the dagger the witness testified to seeing? Obviously, Your Honor. But do you not notice something else? No, now that you mention it. If you look closely, there appears to be blood on it. Where did you find that? I didn't see that when I investigated the crime scene. Did you investigate the pine tree at the crime scene? Which crime scene? Huh? The pine tree? The dagger was stuck on the backside of the pine tree. When the last blow was struck, ending the violent battle between the two women, this little baby was thrown in the direction of the back of the pine tree. Huh, which means the blood on this dagger belongs to the victim, correct? Were you even listening, old man? I first heard this confession this morning, just as I had taken the first sip of my 13th cup of morning coffee. Didn't you say it was just your 8th a few minutes ago? I didn't have enough time to get the blood analyzed in such short notice. In any case, the court will accept the dagger as evidence. Furthermore, I ordered that a blood test be performed on it immediately. This is my sweetheart. Make sure you treat her right. Bailiff, get this piece of evidence to the crime lab for testing immediately. Now then, the testimony we just heard has had numerous unbelievable aspects to it. However, after having found the very dagger the witness spoke of, I believe we consider her testimony to be credible. I mean, Cute girls never lie. Ever. I'm not even gonna touch that sentence. In any case, witness, if you could please testify again to this court. About what, Your Honor? About the incident you saw. The battle between the two women. Yes, Your Honor. Mystic Maya stumbled briefly after being hit over the head with the staff. But then she dodged Mystic Elite's next attack and stole her weapon and delivered a fatal Kamehameha. Suddenly, Mystic Elise was back on the defensive with her back to the stone lantern. Why is it like she has hemorrhoids in that picture? That's when Mystic Maya stabbed Mystic Elise. Mystic Elise managed to fling the knife away, but then she collapsed. It's a very heartbreaking story. I don't know if there were any bad feelings between them, but it had been 17 years since Mystic Misty's disappearance. Perhaps they simply didn't recognize each other anymore. That seems reasonable. I mean, okay. When was the last time you didn't recognize someone you just tried to murder them for no reason? Now then, Mr. Wright, proceed with your cross-examination. Okay, stumbled briefly after being hit over the head with a staff. She dodged her next attack and stole her weapon. Okay, have we ever met Maya? Like, I'm pretty sure she can't dodge anything. Iris, where were you standing when you witnessed all this? What do you mean? Well, if either of them had noticed you, they might not have continued their battle. I wonder if that's true. The two of them, they were standing near the garden's stone lantern. I mean, it does look like she just like shit her pants and she's like very, very like, oh no, I have made a dangerous mistake. I was watching the whole thing from behind. It was dark where the two of them were, so I think that's why they didn't see me. So it was dark in the garden when the murder took place. Tell me, what did Miss Maya Fey do after she was struck? What happened to the victim's staff then? I'm not sure. It was very dark, so I really couldn't see. I think it got knocked away somewhere as the fight escalated. That makes sense. That would explain the need for the dagger. Mystic Elise raised the dagger to strike, but Mystic Maya dodged it at the last second. The dagger struck the lantern and fell to the ground. And then at some point Mystic Maya picked it up. Nothing sounds especially strange yet. What did the victim do when the weapon was stolen from her? You're saying that Maya Fey turned the tables on the victim? Yes. But Mystic Maya wasn't herself at the time. After all, her life was in danger. I still can't believe it. The idea of Maya cornering someone at knife point is just silly. As they say, a cornered fox is more dangerous than a jackal. What? I believe the correct description of a cornered fox is scared and petrified. Your animal analogies have grown tiresome. You're the one who started it! Anyway, so after Maya Fey backed the victim into the stone lantern, what happened next? That's when Mystic Maya stabbed Mystic Elise. So we don't actually have evidence about the Maya written in blood, right? Because you would think if she was stabbed with her back to the wall here, there would be a blood stain on the statue. Are you absolutely certain that's what you saw? Because the only blood stain on the statue was the Maya writing, but, you know, if you were stabbed with your back to it, there would probably be some, like, I guess it depends if it went all the way through, but which it probably did, maybe. I'm almost certain. Almost. The garden was dark. I couldn't really tell who was who. What did you just say? So in other words, it could have been someone else entirely? You know that Maya Fey was at the inner temple that night? And the woman that was killed was Elise. Isn't it fairly obvious who attacked who? I don't have anything to counter that yet. Well then, witness, please continue the testimony. Yes, Your Honor. Two of them faced each other for a moment, then Mystic Maya rushed straight into Mystic Elise. Then Mystic Elise doubled over and fell to the ground. So she was stabbed in the stomach, huh? Yes. Managed to fling the knife away, but then she collapsed. Where did that dagger go? I have no idea. It was dark and I couldn't see. According to the detective who found the dagger, okay, there is actually a little bit of a blood stain dripping down there. It was stuck, but you know, it was stuck into the pine tree in the garden. Most likely it was flung towards the tree after the struggle. That is the most likely explanation, yes! After being stabbed in the stomach, did the victim collapse right away? Now that I think of it, he seemed to stare at Mystic Maya for a while. And Mystic Maya stood there, not moving an inch. It felt for a moment that time had just stopped. But then suddenly, as if the spell had worn off, Mystic Elise fell over. Seemed like a reasonable story at first. But there's one thing that is completely impossible. The very idea of Maya stabbing someone. That alone is impossible, which means this faulty testimony must contain another contradiction in it somewhere. And I have no fucking clue what it is. So we probably want to try and prove that Maya is Dahlia. Now, how do we do that? So, they were standing near the garden stone lantern. It was dark. But I think we want to get on this idea that she could have been mistaken on who she saw. Because she said it was dark, then she said something about she wasn't entirely sure who was who. I don't remember which line that was. I think it was the next one. You're absolutely certain that's what you saw? I'm almost certain. Almost. The garden was dark. I couldn't really tell who was who. What did you just say? So in other words, it could have been someone else entirely. I don't know. But we don't have anything to counter for it. Two of them face each other for a moment. Oh wait, but oh, it doesn't say stabbed in the back? Yeah, stab in the back. That's a good one. I only got that because of the freaking judge saying stabbed in the stomach. I'd completely forgotten about the stab in the back part. Something about what you just said isn't right today, Iris. Or something about you just isn't right today. Huh? Until now, I didn't think you were the type to make such a careless mistake. However, the testimony you just gave contains quite a few contradictions. What do you mean? What's so wrong about my testimony? According to you, Maya Fey stabbed the victim while she had her back to the stone lantern, correct? Yes, that's right. But in that case, the victim would have been stabbed in the stomach, right? Yes, I think so. But according to the autopsy report, the cause of death was due to blood loss from a stab wound in her back. This proves the victim was stabbed from behind, not from the front. Sister Iris, it appears another seed of doubt has sprouted from your testimony. Melanie, you could maybe make an argument that, like, when they stabbed her with this Hishishito later on, that, like, messed with the way the wound looked and caused autopsy confusion. I think you could make that argument, but we still, you know, we've succeeded in buying time. What is the meaning of this, Mr. Wright? Like, I could see them countering that with that. Huh, it's simple. People are like books. We've all got a front and a back. You give my drift? No! Is that all you have to say? I can also say that darkness loves to play with the human mind. Oh, so he's just gonna say she saw it wrong? Can you knock it off with the cheesy proverbs and illogical metaphors already? That's my job, Trite. The point is, too much of the system just doesn't make any sense. Throwing away a useful stab, people fighting, being mother and daughter. And now she falsely claims the victim was stabbed in the stomach. Those certainly are some inconsistencies. Well, Iris, how about it? Well, it's just... If you ask me, you're just being too naive about the whole thing. What do you mean? There are 253 distinct types of bitterness in coffee. But to pick out each one requires total concentration and the use of all the senses. When you really concentrate on what this witness actually said... Prosecutor, good eye, explain yourself! The witness was quite unambiguous about her own ambiguities when she said that the garden was dark and she couldn't see clearly. Then, okay, saying, oh, well, she made a mistake because you couldn't see what the hell was going on is not a good refutation of us saying that she messed up her testimony. You're admitting that her testimony is unreliable in order to counter us saying that it's unreliable. A human needs one thing to see clearly, and that is light. I can't remember. Didn't we just, like, I mean, it's a lantern, though. By the way, did you know Hazakura has a rule that the nights when an acolyte is at the Inner Temple training, the stone lantern in the garden must be kept lit. I did wonder if that stone lantern was what that stone lantern was there for. Well, if that's true, then shouldn't the witness have been able to see the crime more clearly? Normally, yes, Your Honor. According to the head nun, Sister Bikini, the night of the crime, it was impossible to light that stone lantern. Impossible? It hadn't been used in a long time, and the wick was no good. In other words, it had been nearly pitch black in the garden that night. Could have been a faint light coming from the training hall, but that's all. Most enlightening! That illuminating fact has chased all the No, it hasn't. It hasn't in the slightest. That just opens us up to be like, okay, well, if she couldn't see what the fuck was going on, then how do we know that it was Maya? If the staff was dropped, it would be too difficult to see. It also explains why they didn't recognize each other. We can't see the demons that lurk in the night. That's why humans are weak. Isn't that right, Trite? I mean, it's really not like a big... Like, he's not blowing us out. Because we just counter with, then how did she know it was Maya? Because there were other people at the Inner Temple. I mean, we know she was there at the Inner Temple. We know Bikini was there at the Inner Temple at that time. Here, Your Honor, let me present the stone lantern into evidence. Maybe it'll rekindle the flame of truth in your mind. Why is the judge just sitting there with that look on his face? Seems like a decent place to stop, though. We will learn why the judge is sitting there with that look on his face next time. Pretty good opening section of the trial. I don't really like... I get why they want you to present the portrait instead of the talisman, but I do think presenting the talisman as evidence that Elise is Misty makes more sense, both in the way the question is phrased and in terms of just like logically, because my idea is that if I had presented Misty Faye, I would have think it would have been wrong, or like you would have just been countered with like, okay, well, this in and of itself doesn't mean anything because we have presented no proof that she's Misty Faye. Like, you would just be taking our word for it. But if you present the talisman, then you're like, okay, here's this talisman. They're like, what the hell is this? It's like, well, this is, you know, the Karain Masters, and it's found with Elise. Therefore, Elise is Misty Faye. Therefore, daughter, sister, mother, whatever. Not a huge deal, but that one is not the best IMO. Alrighty, I'm Extra Cheesy 87. Stay tuned for the next part. And bye, guys.